Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar. Today, we're talking about staying ahead of 1099 and W-9 filing, storage, and compliance. My name is Mimi Zach, and I'll be your host today. A friendly reminder that Avalara cannot provide legal tax advice, but we will answer your questions as best we can. On your screen is our safe harbor policy. Please take a moment to review it while I continue with some additional housekeeping. We are recording today's event, so if you want to listen to it again or share it with a colleague, you'll receive the recording within the next 24 hours. The console that you're looking at can be customized, so feel free to move around and resize the windows on it. The slides can be resized by dragging the bottom corner or by downloading the PDF slide under Additional Resources. The Additional Resources section contains related resources. If there are any you'd like to check out, go ahead and click on them now, as the console will automatically close at the end of the webinar. If you have any questions, please submit them using the Ask a Question box. We will answer as many questions as possible throughout the webcast and during the Q&A time at the end of the presentation. You may also submit webinar troubleshooting questions there. Join the group chat by clicking the button down at the bottom of your screen with the little chat bubbles. The group chat will pop up on your screen. We encourage you all to introduce yourselves and make connections with your fellow Avalara customers. Drop in the chat where you're calling in from. If you have any technical issues, there is a question mark icon at the box, or you can reach out, like I said, using the Ask a Question box. We've got a little fun announcement here for our Avalara customers as well. So our Avalara Crush event is back. We're coming back in November, specifically November 11th to the 14th at Austin. This is our premier customer event. Head over to www.avalaracrush.com to learn more and to register. And last but not least, we are offering 1 CPE credit for today's presentation. For those looking to receive CPE credit today, please note that we will ask you to respond to 3 out of the 4 poll questions. The poll question will pop up on your screen for a limited amount of time, so please make sure you are ready to answer it when the question appears. Please do not split the tile screens on your computer, as this can affect placement of the poll question. You must attend the full 60-minute duration in order to receive the credit. And once you admit those requirements, your certificate will be available to download in the Earn Certification box on your screen. Click the icon to access it, and it will open in a new tab. The certificate will also be sent in a post-event email if you miss it on the console. Unfortunately, we are unable to provide CPE credit to those who have technology issues that prevent them from qualifying. If you have a moment, please respond to the survey questions on your screen, or do it following the webinar. All right, and before we jump into our first CPE poll question, I want to introduce today's presenter. Today we are joined by Gordon Walsh, a 1099 product solution consultant here at Avalara. Gordon, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, good morning or good afternoon, everyone. I'm Gordon Walsh, as Mimi said, the 1099 product solution consultant. I spent the last 5, 6, 7 years working in payroll, human capital management, tax, global compliance, and specifically 1099 contractor and vendor management. Before that, I was a high school teacher for a decade. So excited to be here and talk more about 1099 and best preparation.
Love it. Yep, teaching once again, Gordon. All right, before I pass it over to you, we're going to do our first CPE poll question. So the question is, how would you rate your current W-9 and 1099 compliance processes? A, great, B, good, C, average, D, poor, and E, terrible. Show in your responses. I'll give you guys a couple of minutes, and then we will start. Couple more moments here. All right. Let's see those responses. Average. Average is the largest response. All right, well, let's see if Gordon can get you guys up to great in today's presentation. Passing it over to you now, Gordon. Thanks so much.
Great. Thank you, Mimi. So today, here's our agenda. We're going to talk through my favorite metaphor for W9s, that it is a marathon, not a sprint. We'll talk about what the forms are, what challenges are associated with them, some best practices we have at Avalara, and then I'll show you a short demonstration of the product we have at Avalara, our Avalara 1099 and W9. Talk about a trial offer and see if there's any questions at the end. Just a reminder, you do have that Q&A chat feature if you want to write down a question. Hopefully we can get to that at some point throughout. So as I said, my favorite metaphor, managing IRS forms is a marathon, not a sprint. A ex-history teacher and teaching military history, David Goggins, former Navy SEAL and now motivational speaker and ultra athlete. I love this quote: running a marathon is a war. You don't just show up and run one without paying your dues beforehand. You can pay your dues by following a running program that acclimates you to 26.2 miles. That's so great. I apply that to the world of 1099s all the time, right? The 1099 event that is kind of that month of January when these forms are due and we're submitting them to the IRS, we're filing them. That's a marathon, right? It's the singular event. And just like a marathon, there's really two ways it can go. Right? You can show up to your marathon and have not trained very much for it. You keep saying, well, I'll do a long run next weekend. I'll start drinking more water the month before the race. I'll start stretching more later. And you get to that race, that marathon, to run 26.2 miles, and it's going to take you 8, 9, 10 hours, and it's going to hurt. And you're probably going to hurt for the next 3 weeks. That's because of a lack of preparation beforehand. But like David Goggins says, if you follow that plan. And so for those 8, 9, 10 months leading up to that marathon, you train, you run miles, you add more mileage, you do your long runs, you stretch, you foam roll, you use your Theragun, you drink lots of water, you eat nutrition that's good for your body to refuel. And you get to that marathon date and you run that 26.2 miles and you run it in your personal best time. You feel so great about it. And you finish and it's a much easier day, right? And so that's just like our 1099 season. The training aspect, those months leading up to, that's our W9 process. And what are we doing to be best prepared so that when we get to the time we need to do the filing, we're set up for success. It's nice, it's easy. We're not having to on all these other things and the little stuff. We have it all done, okay? So we just always want to keep that reminder, right? That almost every company files and other information returns, tons of different returns for different purposes. Because a lot of companies today rely on the work of vendors, contractors, and freelancers. And that income needs to be reported to those vendors by January 31st. So let's get some terminology out of the way just so that we're all using the same words here and that we feel confident with it, okay? So there are many types of IRS forms. There's the 1099, the W2 series, or the W series, and that's really a long list you can see here, right? From your miscellaneous to int to K to LS, your Ws, all of those. But for the purpose of our discussions, we're really going to refer to all of those 1099s as 1099, all the Ws, but with the mindset that, we have two major forms that will dominate that field in 1099 and W9, okay? So what is an IRS form W9? Well, this is the form that we send out when we have a new individual or company, vendor, contractor, independent contractor, freelancer, whatever we want to call them, that we begin working with. And it's used to request the correct tax identification number, or TIN, from that individual, right? Pretty basic. It's just like when you start a job with your W, right? You're going to put in your name, your address, your tax identification number, whether that's a social security number, or in this case could be an EIN, signing off on it, okay? And that's what we have to collect to know that they are a contractor and keep that form throughout the year. Now, an IRS Form 1099, that's what we file each year in January, typically in January for the NEC. Some of the other variations are going to be later in February and March. That gets filed annually with the IRS to report that non-employee income paid to the vendor or contractor throughout the year. Okay, so we take all the info on the W-9, we add how much money we've paid them, and we file that with the IRS. All right, now that we're on the same page on our terms, let's talk about some of those mistakes that can happen. Okay, one common thing that happens is people don't collect a W-9 in the first place. Contractor does some work and we start getting involved in answering. They send an invoice, we start paying them, but we didn't get that W-9 because that W-9 can be kind of pesky to get back from a contractor. Well, if you don't have one in place, the IRS could fine you anywhere from between $60 and $630 per missing W-9. Okay, and it depends on your industry, but some industries have a ton of W-9s, right? And so can be troublesome if we don't get that from them in the first place, because now we can't actually file that 1099 without it, right? Plus, the IRS always wants to know that you've got that on file, okay? If you file a 1099 with an incorrect tax ID, well, they don't like that. They want to know, they got to be able to match who is this income been paid to and who is it that we're matching that up to, right? We need to match those numbers so we can tax it correctly. Well, when we don't have that, the IRS is going to reach out and say, hey, we need you to figure out who this is, get us a new W-9, or we're going to start doing backup withholding. We want to know that we're getting our tax funds and we know you, but we don't know who this contractor is. So we're going to start charging you 24% of every dollar you paid them in a backup withholding, okay? And if you can't rectify that, you may be subject to further penalties and fines by the IRS, okay? And then the last mistake that we see often is that you're storing those W-9s yourself, right? That we may have them in paper and have them in a file, or they're stored in an email inbox, or they're decentralized. Maybe they're several different places because different departments collect. And that can bring into question security. Are they secure? Is that in a place where nobody can get to them? It does hold very sensitive information like social security numbers, EINs, addresses. And so that's all a liability to have out and about. Those mistakes can happen. And so there's ways that we can try to keep those things in check and rectify those.
All right, I'll jump back in for our second CPE poll question today. So the question is, what is your company's most common reason for missing an IRS deadline? Is it A, changing legislative requirements and regulations, B, vendor complications, C, form errors, or D, we have never missed an IRS deadline? I'll give everyone a moment to respond. Hopefully all of the answers are D, but we'll see. Okay, a couple more moments here, folks. Okay, great. Look at those responses. Well, many have never missed one, but form errors, vendor complications, and changing legislation still seem to be some issues people are up against. All right, back over to you, Gordon.
Wow, I wish I was in that boat of people, Mimi, that never miss an IRS deadline. That is awesome. All right, let's talk about some of these other challenges. Okay, so let's talk about how the workflow is, right? That we can get caught in the middle very, very, very quickly. Right? So how does this work? Our contractor gives us a W-9, right? When we request them, they start working for us. We have to file a 1099 with the IRS using the info we send a copy of the 1099 back to the contractor so they can file their own taxes, okay? And the IRS sometimes sends you an audit to request to see if you have the original W-9, okay? So in all this back and forth between you in the middle, the IRS on one side, the individual, the vendor on the other side, there's a lot of potential for things to go sideways, to take up our time, to create burdensome liabilities, okay? And the challenge is that IRS deadline for handling 1099s is very rigid, right? For our NECs, our non-employee compensation, it's January 31st. And so we don't know. I mean, we may have payments through the end of December. It gives us a quick turnaround from the beginning of January to the end, that 1 month, to get all of these things in the system and to rectify any issues that come up, right? Again, keeping in mind that we're thinking through this idea of it's a marathon. Are we training? Are we prepared for when that date of the actual event, the month of January, comes into play? Also, keep in mind that we do have a number of other forms that are due at different dates across the month of January, February, and March, depending on, is it a 1099 interest? Is it a 1099 dividend? Those are all going to have different due dates. And honestly, the IRS requirements are a moving target, right? There's constant change, especially post-pandemic. We see all kinds of changes coming into a place, right? So a good example, starting in tax year 2023, the IRS introduced a new rule stating that if you have 10 or more information returns, you must file them electronically. That was a big change, and it kind of came late in the game, right? So now we went from several hundred of individual forms to now just 10 total, having to submit those electronically. Okay. Ahead of the 2024 filing deadline, the IRS reduced the 1099K threshold for requiring a 1099 to $600. This has an enormous impact on marketplace sellers. Congress introduced legislation called the Red Tape Reduction Act to raise the threshold back to $10,000. However, this hasn't gone anywhere. But just before the deadline, the IRS delayed the reduction in the 1099K threshold until the following tax year. Right? What's next? Hard to keep up. We're not sure. Is the 1099K going to come into place? Is it going to happen? Are we going to change the 1099 NEC legislation thresholds to a different number? It's a moving target. It's hard to keep up with. No business gets into business to be keeping track of IRS targets and requirements and legislation. You're in it for your widget, to create your widget or to provide your service. And so these are things that are tough for people to keep up with. Okay. Keep in mind that we have the additional challenge that we're working with different recipients, right? The vendors, the people themselves have their own needs that create complications. And I know what you're thinking. No vendor or contractor that I've ever worked with has caused problems in my filing of 1099s. Gordon, that's never happened to me. You'd be the only one, right? From things like, where's my copy? Where's my copy? How do I get my copy? I need my copy, right? Can I get it somehow? Where is it? Is it electronic? Can you stop everything you're doing and print it off and send it to me, right? To, hey, I know it's January 28th, but I just realized I changed my legal name. I got married. I incorporated. I started a business, and I changed my tax ID, and I need to give you that information, and I forgot until now, right? Or it's in February or March or April, and then you find out that there's been a name change, right? How about that one under the freelance writer? Have you ever had that one? Bad handwriting. When was the last time that you got a W-9 from somebody and they hand wrote it and you went, is that a 4 or an 8, a 9? I'm not sure what that is. Is that 8 digits in their social security number? I think there's more than that. Heck, you've got some people who say, especially in those marketplaces, some of these different situations, I didn't even know I needed a W-9, right? A lot of people are getting a 1099 when it's not necessarily their primary business. Maybe it's just something they're doing on the side, and they may not even know what the requirements are for something like that, right? So there's a lot of different moving pieces that can come into place just from those vendors and what they have, okay? Now, something to keep in mind, a pro tip for you, a little free education on it. You can't send vendors electronic versions of their 1099s unless they opt into electronic delivery, and they must have a means to opt out. That's the IRS rules, right? So the IRS says you can change the format of our W-9. You can add this electronic delivery consent. It has to have very specific regulations on how it's built and what it looks like. And so if you're going to send it via electronic delivery, you're going to email it to them, you must get them to opt into that. You must prove it to us that they did, and they must have a means to opt out, okay? It is a great way to do it though, right? Save on a lot of the costs associated with mailing. Another pro tip, you don't need to send a 1099 to vendors who are incorporated, right? So if they're a C Corp, an S Corp, an LLC taxed as one of those, they don't need one, right? So again, saving that time, that energy, but here's the kicker. Does a W-9 even ask them what they are? Don't know. Hey, shoot, their business name might be Gordon Walsh LLC. If that is their business name, that's an interesting business name. But if they put that out there, you can assume they're an LLC, but how are they taxed? Is it a sole prop? An S Corp, a C Corp, a partnership? How are they being taxed? And do I need to issue them that 1099, right? So having means in place that helps you to better know what this is and be better prepared is going to be a key piece of this puzzle. Okay. What happens when you get a rejected filings, right? There's another challenge. Maybe when we copy and paste, we hate to admit it, but that can be prone to error. Our bad handwriting again. It's tough to read. I couldn't tell you what that says, but I'm telling you, people fill their stuff out like that. Okay. Sometimes people forget to put their state IDs. Sometimes the TIN number doesn't come in correctly. If they put in their DBA instead of a legal name, maybe that's going to cause some issues, right? But what happens when you get that B notice, right? What happens when you get a rejected filing, and how do we handle that? Could it have been stuff that we could have taken care of on the front end? Again, better preparation. And maybe now we don't have to worry about getting rejected filings because our tax ID and the legal name don't match or a piece of information is missing, okay? And on top of all that, it's not just the IRS we're worrying about. It's all of these different states that have different rules, right? Maybe you've heard that term combined filing. The list of states that have combined filing, and boy, oh boy, does that make things easier, because that means when I file with the IRS, the federal, that the state also will take that same return. I don't have to go and do more things. But other states aren't part of combined, and other states have some wonky, weird rules depending on what type of 1099 are you filing, and when is it? How much money did they make? How does that work? What other forms are being filed in that state? Some states say, hey, if you also have a W-2, you have to file the 1099. But if you don't have a W-2, you don't have to file that 1099, right? South Carolina is maybe my favorite, with the piece of the puzzle saying that if they have any state income tax withheld from their 1099, that information must be burned to a CD-ROM and then mailed to their Department of Revenue. I did some checking. I don't have, in all of the old computers I've got in this house and my laptops for work and personal, I don't have the ability to burn a CD anymore. I think I'd have to go online and find a special service to do that, right? So keeping up with these state requirements and things can be a constant challenge. And things like, again, having a good preparation in place can help take care of that. This is a good time to mention that for states specifically, .com is a great place to go to. If you go to Avalara1099.com, we do have a state info page. And that state info page you can select the tax year, the state that the payer is from, the payee, or the recipient will be in, and the tax form. And we will give you kind of a kickback of what needs to happen. We also have a listing on there. So again, if you go to Avalara1099.com, you can find some state information specific to you. All right, Mimi, back to you.
Asking folks to burn it to a CD-ROM is pretty wild. All right, next question, our third on the list. What % of your team's time is spent fixing errors or resolving vendor questions in W-9 or 1099 forms? Is it more than 30% of the time, 20 to 30% of the time, 10 to 20% of the time, or less than 10%? I'll give you all a moment to respond. Okay, just a couple more moments here. Okay, great. Thanks, everybody. Let's see those responses. Looks like less than 10% of the time. Interesting. Okay, back over to you, Gordon.
Awesome. Well, let's talk about some of our best practices now. Kind of identified some of the potential issues and things that could happen. Let's talk about ways that we think you can be best prepared to deal with those, right? So we do have a timetable here, okay? And if we start with January is our big month. That's the month when we really have to be focusing on things. So in the rest of the year, could we be doing things like, who owns these aspects of compliance, right? Who within the business is going to take on the different aspects of W-9, of 1099, of making sure tax IDs are matched, that all of those things are in place. Let's make sure we have a great and safe method for storing our W-9s, right? Maybe let's do our research on what e-filing platform do we want to use come next year, right? Once you get a little further into this time of year, right, when we're on the opposite end of the filing calendar, look into seeing if there's any upcoming legislative updates. What will go into effect for this tax year? What could be changed, that we give ourselves a good 4, 5, 6 months to make sure we know those practices. And if we have to make any changes in our internal processes, maybe it's an update to our ERP or some rules that are in some of our systems to track those things, that we're prepared to do that, right? And that's a great time to, again, explore, are there any workflow or tech stack integrations, things that we need to work on or develop? Okay. Once we start getting to the end of the calendar year, great time to be confirming, do we have a W-9 for everyone? So start going through the accounting software, look at who we've paid, and start sorting through, have we collected a W-9? Do we feel good about what it is? Okay. And carry over all of the data from your previous filing year just to make sure we have all of that in place, right? Once we get to January, that's when we're going to want to transfer our data from our W-9s to our 1099s. We're going to want to do some address verification and TIN matching. So again, making sure if we have to mail these out, the addresses are right, because nobody wants to get the yellow sticker of death, right? You know what I'm talking about, don't you? That return to sender sticker on an envelope because we sent it, and maybe that individual has moved or something was written wrong, and now we have to go and track them down come February and March, right? We're doing that TIN matching to make sure that we have everything in place and that it matches the IRS has on file, okay? We're going to e-file to the IRS, and then if we need to get permission for that the 1099 to be delivered electronically, and making sure that we have those 1099 copies out before the January 31st deadline. So January is a big month, but again, think if you had to move all of these other bullets into that time, preparation is key. Okay, so some best practice for good W-9 collection, right? Making sure that you collect them, making sure that the tax ID, the legal name of the recipient are good to go, that they are in place, and making sure that you have a W-9 for every single non-employee, regardless of whether they hit that $600 threshold or whether they're incorporated and are going to need to get a 1099 or not. Still, best practice, have a system in place to get all of those W for the audit. Okay, again, best practice, do some proactive data validation. Do that TIN matching, okay? TIN match that ahead of getting any B notices to make sure that we reduce those, okay? And then again, address verification. Let's return to sender, that yellow sticker of death. Let's make sure, and that is official terminology. I just want everybody to know. The post office has confirmed it. Disclaimer, not true at all. But let's make sure that we do some proactive data validation, okay? And then making sure that we are storing these in a good spot. Okay, paper, your laptop, right? We want to make sure that they're kept in essential locations, so we're not having to look through all of these. Keep them secure. All right. Mimi, it looks like we maybe have one more.
Yep, one more, and then we're going to get into the fun stuff. So, last question here, everyone, and it's an easy one. Would you like to speak to an Avalara sales representative? A, yes, or B, no. This is our final CPE poll question for today. I'll give you all a little bit to respond. Okay. Longer. Okay, great. Thanks, everybody. All right, passing it over to you, Gordon, for a demo.
Yeah, absolutely. And I see some questions coming in right now, too, that are asking some questions about the tool and the demonstration. So I'm going to jump in right now. Good timing for all that. I'm going to share my screen, and we will jump right into what this product looks like. Right. Awesome. So I am in the Avalara 1099 and W9 tool. This is the very first screen, and we give you both pieces in the same place, so you can see all of that right here. I'm going to jump in on the front end on what we've been talking about, the proactive side, W9. Let's make sure that we're in a good place. Now, if you remember back to the beginning, I did say we can do more than just W9 and 1099. So this tool does have the ability to collect W9s, W4s, and both W8 BENs and BENEs for your internationals, okay? So I'm going to jump in. Keep in mind that if you've got multiple payors or EINs that you're going to be paying contractors out of, you can have multiple companies in one login. Okay, so I've got 3 companies here. And if you look under access over on the right, I can actually have different people assigned to different ones, so they can only view that. So if I have somebody who needs to just be able to work on ABC Corp, I can assign that person and they won't even see my other company. This home dashboard gives you a good kind of snapshot of how many forms do we have total collected, what type of forms are they, do we have some that are requested that have not been filled out yet, which ones have been signed and are good to go, which ones have bounced where the email didn't work, and then have I done any manual uploads. So I'm going to jump into one and show you. It is so simple to get that W9 into my system. I click on request forms, again, my 4 different types. I'll pick that form and I can put in the vendor's name. I can put in their email. If you do have like an ERP or accounting system, a unique identifier for them, you can attach that so it connects it at year end a little easier. And I can click send request. Okay. Obviously, we can only do 6 at a time right here. So if you need to do a mass number of them, you can fill out a W9 CSV that has these exact same 3 columns, copy and paste those names and emails in there, and we can send out multiple at the same time. Okay. When I send that out, my contractor is going to get an email request form. It's going to look just like this. So the company that I'm sending this from is Wise Guys Landscapes. The contractor themselves is Travis L. And we're asking them to please fill out their W9. So I'm Travis. I click on fill out your W9. And right away, it's going to take me to a really easy to fill out wizard on all of this. So they can put in their name, their DBA. And right here, we talked about it before, they're going to tell us exactly what type of business they are so that we're not having to worry what type, do we need to file 1099 at year end or not? We're all set. We're good to go. We feel good about this. Okay. And scroll down, get their address, get their email, and then they're going to fill out their social security number or EIN right here. They're going to agree that this is all good to go. And here's that piece we talked about right there. We are asking for consent to have their 1099 delivered electronically right here. So we can get that permission, and that way we know we're good to go and we don't even have to mail it. We'll have them sign and submit. Here's the best part. If they go in and they fill all this out and something is mismatched, we're going to get an error message, because right when they click sign and submit, we are going to do a live TIN match with the IRS. We're going to take their tax identification number and their name, and we're going to run it against the IRS. And if something comes back and it says, nope, it didn't match, it says, according to the IRS, that it didn't match, we can have that individual go back in, revise their form, and resubmit. And it will, again, TIN match live with the IRS. So now we know every time when we come in and look that all of our contractors and vendors that we've sent this to, we can see if they've matched or it's been rejected for each and every one of them. Now we know that their tax ID information is good and it's live, okay? So once they've done that, all of the information flows right back in here. You can see my vendors' names, the type of form I've got. We will right away tell you, hey, like this, Wayne Campbell and Garth Algar, we'll throw back to Wayne's World. These guys do not need, because the box is not checked, okay? Have they consented to e-delivery, our TIN match? When was this updated? And then we can download the PDF. We can sort these, though, by status and see which are the ones that we're still waiting on and which ones are done. Beyonce, she's got that great country album out right now. It's on constant play at our house. She's too busy touring, has not filled out my W9 request. So I can go in and resend that request to her and make sure that I'm get that in a good amount of time. Okay. One other way to get information in, or 2 other ways, I apologize. I can jump in, I can manually enter a W9. I can also take a CSV with all of the W9 information on it, or PDFs, one-page scanned documents, PDFs, and I can upload mass amounts of the ones I have currently in the system. Okay, so you can add those quickly. And lastly, if you have a portal built, a vendor portal, we do have some very basic form request APIs that you can embed. So I'll just jump in and show you really quick. This is a demo for like an Etsy store. If I want to become a seller on Etsy, I can scroll down right here. I can embed a button or a link or something, can open it, and right there, that exact same template pops up and I can fill that out. It will do the live tin match and it will filter the results right back to my home screen. So multiple ways to be able to collect this information and get it into your W-9. Again, now we have tin matched, so we're being proactive. We have gone ahead and gotten it all stored electronically in one centralized location. We can do multiple forms. And now when things come up, again, if something needs to be changed, somebody calls me and says, hey, I need to, I incorporated, I changed my EIN. I can click in there. I can see what's going on. We can see what needs to happen. We can make requests to people for an update. Easy, easy peasy. Okay. If I jump back now at the main screen, the great part is I can click transfer, pick which company it is, and transfer these all right over to 1099. So now I don't have to enter this data or track it anywhere else. Okay. As I jump over to the 1099 side, all of my different or payer records are going to show up over here on the left. And then again, I have my home screen here. So I can see how many total of each type of form do I have, what is the status, and the numbers related to IRS e-files, state e-files, what's going on with recipient electronic delivery, and then what do I have for mail, okay? So if I jump in here, when I push everything over from, my computer's gonna take a minute to load. When I dump everything over from W-9, all of my contractors are going to show up here in this unscheduled tab, and they should all be red. Red means there's an error and we can't file yet. And that's going to be because we don't have what is it that we're putting into their, what's the actual total we paid them. If it's yellow, it means we're good to go to e-file, but we don't have an email address, so we cannot electronically deliver. And then green means good to e-file and we have an email, so we can electronically deliver. Okay. Once I've pulled in totals, and I can do that by manually editing, I can click in and manually edit additional boxes, or I can import data. We have some integrations or extractors. We can pull data from the companies you see on screen, but if these are not where you keep your numbers, we can come in and pull in just a basic CSV formatted file. We can do that for all kinds of forms to be able to get those in place so that we can have those totals updated. Okay. When I'm ready then, and I have all my numbers, I can move to e-file. And this is what's great. We'll give you two different dates. We're going to tell you to deliver as early as you can to your recipients, and then pick a date to e-file later on. So if you can do this in the first week of January and then schedule to e-file maybe in the third week, that gives you a week or two for those recipients to get their email, check their 1099, and report back to you if there's something that doesn't look right that they need to update. That way you can go right back in to our form summary. You can jump into whoever's it is and update it, correct it, and before it's ever filed. That way we're not having to do an official correction once it's been filed. Past that, you'll see that we can mail these for you. And then we'll do at the same time, we will do a address verification and another tin match to make sure nothing's changed since you onboarded that W a while ago. So I'm going to jump back over to a different company that's got a lot more going on. And you'll see that we've got a form type. We've got that we're scheduling mail, that we've emailed it, and one we've sent to IRS. And it's moved from our unscheduled to our scheduled and sent. If I scroll over a bit further, you can see that we've got all of our different state filings done. Anything that's good, anything that's been accepted, anything that's coming that we're going to do. If we need to fix rejected forms, we can go in and edit those, make the corrections, and then resubmit. And then any state that comes up that doesn't allow us to e-file for you would show up so that you can give you direction and the file to be able to do that on your own. Our address verification Anything where we automatically applied minor corrections, that's usually just the zip +4. Anything that had major reviews or anything that did not make sense because it was not in the Postal Service database, that will give you the chance to reach back out and figure out what's going on there. All of our tin matching, again, hopefully if you're using W9, the majority of these are all going to pass. And you'll be able to your complete totals on the different forms to make sure it matches what's in your system. Again, then at the end, if you want to download any of this information, you are able to with either the tins hidden or showing, but do keep in mind that we help by keeping 5 years of history right here in our site for you. So everything is clean and clear. If you do need to make corrections, again, you can edit anything before the scheduled date to the IRS. And if it's already gone to the IRS and we need to make a correction, you can easily click in, pick the name, make the correction, and file at no additional cost. The last piece is it's very, very helpful that if you need to go in and you say, I've got across multiple different places, I've got I need to find a vendor, you can just search out their name or email and it will pull their file right up for you. So you don't have to worry about where things are. And I think that about concludes the W-9 and 1099 side of things. Again, our best practice, a lot of it comes from doing a great job of collecting and doing the work up front on the W-9 side throughout the year, making sure everything is centralized and matched in a live fashion, and put on the individual contractors. That way you're not spending time tin matching and then contacting that individual and saying, hey, what's going on? Help me out here. It's all put there and it saves you a huge amount of time on all that. So W-9, great practice. Here will allow for an easier 1099 experience. All right. Let's make sure. Okay. And from there, we do have, Mimi, is this you? I think this might be your point forward.
We'll just mention really quick, add anything here, Gordon, that you'd like. So we do have an Avalara 1099 trial offer going on right now in the additional resources section of your console, everyone. The link to sign up, you can start storing your W-9 for free. Is that correct, Gordon?
Yes, yes. Can start storing those W-9s, collecting and storing them at no cost whatsoever.
Great. Yeah, so click on that link, and the link will also be in any follow-up email that we send you. So you'll have more than one point of access there. Great. Well, we've got a bunch of really great questions here for you, Gordon, so I'm just going to hop right on in. Earlier on in the presentation, someone asked, does Avalara have a built-in automated TIN matching versus doing it manually in the IRS database? I believe you answered this in your demo, but just wanted to.
Yeah. And again, we answered that in the demo, but the W-9 will do it live, automated, and then we will do it again in a bulk fashion, submit the filings at year end.
Perfect. Okay, great. Another question. For corporations, do we need to send 1099s to the IRS, just not send the copy to the vendor? Or do we not need to file a 1099 at all?
Great question. Yeah, with corporations, we don't need to file a 1099 at all. Interesting.
Okay. From Lauren, is there a way to verify TINs ourselves without waiting to check back for the IRS?
That's again, kind of depends on the tool usage. Obviously, when you use W-9, it is a live tin match right there in the moment, and it puts it back on the contractor to be able to resolve that issue. And then again, once you're ready to submit at year end, we're going to do another tin match with you. And that one is, the ones at year end are bulk, so you'll have the results back the very next day on any of those that come back. So not really having to wait too long there. And if you're using W-9, that's what's going to be the best tool in order to do the verification without having to wait until year end.
Thank you. Okay, great. Another question from Angela. I noticed the IRS updated the form for W-9s in March 2024. should we send each vendor this updated form to be sure we are in compliance?
Yeah, great question, Angela. That really relies around the groups section of it, but not a bad idea. The IRS doesn't have a rule around how often you have to collect a W-9. I mean, technically one should last forever, but they do suggest in multiple places on irs.gov, everybody's favorite site, to probably try to collect a new one every year. So having it updated is not a bad idea. We do see a number of our clients, when they start with us, they start using W-9 and they think, you know what, this is a great opportunity to refresh all of our W-9s. And so they'll use that as a great reset time period and allow that to take place so that now they just feel like they're in compliance, they have the e-consent, they have everything updated.
Thank you. And from Kelsey, how often should we ask long-term vendors for a new W-9?
Yeah, and that falls right in line. It's really up to you. There's not a law or regulation that says one way or another, but not a bad idea just to try to do it on an annual basis. Especially, again, it's if you have a product or a technology, a system like an Avalara 1099 that allows you to do it in a much easier fashion where it doesn't become this huge process for you. Now you can do that easily. And the nice thing with our system is that you can request those updates every year, but their last years will just stay in the system. So once we get a new one, it will overwrite the old. But if they don't actually ever respond, you still have the one from before that stays in the system.
Got it. Product specific question again. Can the product Avalara 1099 be set to automatically reach out for a new W-9 or confirmation of no changes at preset period? I believe it does. Is that correct, Gordon?
So can the product be set to automatically reach out for a new W-9 or confirmation of no changes at preset period? No. As of right now, all of the W-9 would be something, when you make a request a W-9, it would be something that you would intentionally have to create the request versus an automation of at a certain time requesting a new one. So once you request it once, it's in the system. If you want to update that, you would have to go into the system and request that update.
Okay. Thank you. A question from Shauna. Does this product connect to my ERP system the same way that Avalara sales tax and tax exemption products do?
So as of today, it does not, but that is part of our product development. That's the great part about having this product that was acquired in the last few years, that Avalara sees great potential in what the world of 1099 looks like. And so as of today, the only pieces of that we have are those extractors that I showed with companies like QuickBooks or NetSuite or those ones there. But we are constantly taking feedback from our clients, and our product team is growing. The number of engineers we have working on this product is growing, and we are constantly working to make improvements. And with that specific question, that recognition of a connector of some kind to your ERP, to your accounting softwares, to be able to directly integrate and pull data back and forth is definitely on our radar and something that we're working towards in the very near future.
Sounds exciting. This is kind of a hot topic question, I think, right now in the world of 1099. Is the 1099 limit increasing to $1,000 from $600 in 2024?
If I could answer that question for you with 100% certainty, I would be charging people to answer that question, to give them that answer. We are waiting with bated breath, just like anybody else is, for the IRS to make a decision on that, a ruling and confirmation. They typically like to make those releases in October. They've been very good about moving it towards November lately, which makes everybody feel a little rushed at year end. But we don't have that guidance any more so than anyone else does right now. And so you can count on that. We do have a team of people that are constantly monitoring legislation and updating our product to be able to function that way, right? When somebody today is going in and saying, I want to file a 1099 for $300 and it's under the limit, we're going to, red flag that. And so we will keep those same types of updates in place if something like that change were to come in. But as soon as we know, our customers will know. Our website will let it, it will be known. Avalara's website will let it be known. We will make those communications and make sure that our product is ready to handle it.
Yep. Like you said, we're all waiting with bated breath. Can we use a prior year's W-9 if the information is still current for a vendor?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, once you have a W-9, you can absolutely continue to use it if you feel confident and comfortable with that information still being accurate. It really comes down to your process of with those different contractors feeling like, do I know that this is not changed? How do I communicate with them to understand if it's changed or not? Do we have a technology or a system in place that makes it, nice and easy to do something like that? So you can absolutely do that. Yep.
Does the Avalara 1099 platform validate foreign TINs as provided via a W-8 form?
Tricky one. It is one thing for us to validate TINs with the IRS because that's one tax agency. However, with W-8s, we do not have any type of method because every country has a different system and has a different way of doing it. And so that will be tricky. That one would be tricky. So no, we do not validate the foreign tax identification information. We just can collect that W and help, turn it into the 1042S at year end for filing, but don't have any way to do the validation on that.
Mm-hmm. Thanks. And another clarifying question from another customer, Candace. Does Avalara have a solution for 1052 filing? Or is that managed in Avalara 1099 as well? To put it another way.
Let's see. I'm going to make sure I answer that 100% correctly. A 1052 or a 1042? 1042.
Yes.
Yep. We can collect the W-8s and we can turn that information in order to file and take care of the international as well. Yep.
Okay. And one more question. How long after we discontinue using a vendor should we maintain their W-9? When should those forms be purged, so to speak?
Yeah, great question. Wouldn't it be so helpful if the IRS just what to do? It's a guessing game. It really is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Best practice on that is typically to hang on to it for 3 years once you've discontinued it for 3 years. But there's also a lot of people who would say as soon as you're done and the tax year is over, that you're done with paying them, you don't really need to keep it anymore because you're done. I'm more of a let's go on the safe rather than sorry side. And if it's easy enough to have it stored in a platform like ours or kept somewhere securely, you might as well hang on to it for a little bit longer.
Thank you. All right, Gordon, you're out of the hot seat. I'm going to finish up with some housekeeping. Thank you so much for presenting today's webinar. So just one last reminder, all those customers out there, Avalara Crush is coming back and the registration prices are going to go up in mid-July, I believe. So the sooner you register, the cheaper your ticket. Just head over to avalaracrush.com to learn more if you're interested in attending. Last but not least, to close out, if you qualify for CPE credit, you can download your certificate now in the CPE certificate engagement tool. Your certificate will also be available in a post-event email that you'll receive in the next 24 hours. Thanks so much for attending today, and we'll reach out to answer any of those questions that we didn't get to today. Thanks, everybody.